Guys, what's up? Carrie here. So I wanted to do a review on a documentary I just watched called The 13th, and it really moved me. I was so shocked because I was born back in 92, and some of this stuff and, of course, laws and amendments and stuff sometimes came before me, no duh. But my point with this is that I'm not gonna lie, a bit uneducated. I could not believe the prison system that we have in America today. The 13th Amendment, if you don't know, basically grants freedom to all Americans under a few exceptions. And one of the biggest exceptions of that is if you're a criminal. If you're a criminal, you no longer are free. Well, let's just take this all the way back to when slavery existed. So, when slavery existed, it was because of an economic development type of thing. Like slaves were cheap or low-cost labor in order to make products that was passed around, sold to other companies, sold within the United States to make what? Money. So everything, as you can imagine, with the world works around money. You make money, you get low labor costs, you sell the product for high, you make more what? Money. So the whole thing with prison reform, the 13th Amendment, including that, is all about making more money. So you'll learn some of those facts. I feel like that's one of the biggest top three things that I definitely saw and witnessed and learned as I was going through the 13th documentary. I took a lot of notes throughout the process of it. I paused it. I checked online. I watched it twice, and I was just still blown away. I was crying halfway through this because of the unjustly things that was done to the African American people that were, they didn't ask to be here in America. I didn't ask to be here in America. I'm thankful that I am here in America. I do love America. I love Africa too. I love a lot of other countries. But that's not my point. My point is, let's go back to the 13th. So the 13th Amendment makes it free to everyone except for a criminal. So, and you'll learn in the review, watching the documentary for yourself, I should say, the 13th, is that 5% of the world's population, well, America is represented at 5% of the world's population. But of the 5% population, guess what America's number one in? Number one in prisons. And then we represent 25% of the world's prisoners. So that means 1 out of every 4 people will be locked up behind the jail cell. Or you could just say already locked up because there's 2.3 million prisoners right now locked up in America, which is just a disturbing amount of numbers, especially when you can find out that how profitable prison is. But you'll learn that in the documentary. My point being is that my whole thing that I really want to just display and tell everyone about this whole documentary that was really shocking to me was really how the amendments and laws that was set before us wasn't even made for African Americans. If you were white, they technically were made by your ancestors. If you were African American, they were not made by your ancestors. They were made by other white people. Because think about it. You take a slave from Africa, you move them to America, you set them under laws that was set by what? The people that were in America. White people were here first, correct? So that was one shocking thing, which I knew, but I didn't know the extent of. And then the second thing is that how slavery was a whole economic system. So back when slavery was, of course, legal, people would work, they would pick cotton, they would do chores, they would mow the yards, they would do all this labor at a free or low cost under, the slave master's words, and that helped the economy get around. But then slavery still continued after slavery ended. And I know that's no shocker to most of you, but some of you probably it is. And how that happens is basically when slavery ended, there goes this thing called the 13th Amendment where it makes, everyone free under the exception of criminals. So how can we criminalize people, in order to get more free labor? So that came with the war on drugs. And you'll learn more about that in the documentary, or you can do your research with your history homework and find some legit good history stuff, because some of the history books these days don't point these issues out, which is very sad. But talking about, making it illegal for basically criminals to go and they would work with different companies in order to make, let's just say, JCPenney shirts. That's an example. And you'll see the companies that was supported their laws around making shirts, making pants, having free labor, building aircraft stuff was all done by prisoners of the United States. Well, I'm not going to say all of it, but a lot of it. And this was under free labor or very, very cheap labor. So this was something that I didn't know about, but now I'm educated on. And then lastly, it just really talks about how slavery was the economic system, how prison is the economic system, and how like the last thing that was like so shocking to me, which I still can't comprehend because of the election that's currently going on, is with the whole Hillary Clinton thing and the Clinton family thing, I should say, when Bill Clinton made the 3-strike rule and you're out. So that means if you were charged with some felony of, let's say, crime, you sold drugs, and then 2 years later, you were locked up, you got a felony, and then you got out, and then guess what? You sold drugs again, and got a felony, you locked up, and then all of a sudden you created something else that happened to be named a felony, and let's say you did this in a span of 16 years old until 22 years old when you were still young and still trying to learn. I'm not sure. Now, I know some people are going to be like, well, they should be locked up in prison forever. But I completely disagree, because these are not the true criminals that create mass murders where you see people that sit here and murder 100 people or 50 people or 25 people in one church, and they get a petty crime of locked up in jail for the rest of their lives, when those people should, I feel like, deserves a lot more. Now, Jesus might not feel that way, but still. Anyways, I'm going to stop rambling off and just highly suggest that you watch the 13th, because it's going to move you. It's going to make you really rethink the system that we live in, and, hopefully get you to stand up and use your voice like I just used mine. So that's it. I'm out. Go watch the 13th, guys. And, if you see a black person today, say what's up or something. Say, I'm with you. All right? Take care.